Okay, in your readings, I'm pretty sure you'll probably be at Inipi, sweat, purification, and Blackout have a lot of things written in his book. And also, as I stated before, Blackout is talking from his own Tioshpai and his own dreams that visions that he had as a medicine man. And of course, every district, every tribe, they all have their own medicine man that they go to for guidance or spiritual effectiveness of each individual. And so how we look at that book of Blackout and how we understand our own medicine mans here in a rosebud, and that's how important it is. Of course, they all sort of mesh together, the medicine men, how their vision, their dreams, and usually all have the same dreams or visions, and so that's why I use the sacred pipe of Blackout. And of course, he also was into the Western culture of Christianity. He's a catechist, so he in some instances in the chapters he would refer back to those times of his life, as a Christian. So we have to look at that and make our own decisions of how he produced the stories from the book. But the most important is the idea or the concept of Mitaki Oyasi, how he put that and put it together as a relative, and also talked about the universe, the cosmics, how they come together with Unchimaka, and how our spiritual part of our lives was introduced into his book. And when the pipe was brought, as Blackout was talking about, it's wakan. It is energy that was brought from the spiritual realm to the physical place, Unchimaka, as well as to our physical being. And in order for one to understand how the pipe work is just a something that is needed at that time to bring together the whole creation. The today, as we call them, animals or nations of each species here that is created. The eagle, the coyotes, or even the plants, and how the pipe would be integrated into this situation when the need arises. And that the only thing that really stands out is the making of peace within every individual or tribes. And that was brought. And from that, a lot of our way of life hinges on that on that pipe. Things that we do daily lives, or in our families, or in our tioshbaya. And the pipe will have to be present in order for one to understand that situation. The energy from the pipe will make us understand, as Blackout was talking about. And it's wakan, as it was said. I think because of that, and the translation of that word, everyone is deathly afraid of the pipe. because it says Wakan means sacred. And that concept comes about, everyone is afraid of the pipe. Even to mention the pipe, something will happen. Daku Akipa. That was always the reason behind that pipe. Okay. A long time ago, every individual have that pipe. The Teoshpais have a pipe that they use for whatever the need arises in their Teoshpai, or as their tribe, to bring together all things in order for one to understand his way of life, his spiritual life, as well as physical, emotional. And so these are part of that pipe that Lakota people believe in. But today they call it sacred, and it's something that you're not supposed to talk about or even touch it. And that's what really hinders the effectiveness of the pipe in today's world. Because of that, people are afraid of it, and we need to talk about that. It's something that it's an instrumental thing that we use for our survival in this world. And so that's why I think the Medicine Association, as I understand it here, that was formed in the 70s to address that issue, so that people will understand it. It's a spiritual gift to the people in this continent, in this Unchimaka, as we understood. And it addresses, when the white buffalo calf maiden came with it, it addresses all things. I'm sure I'll give you the handout, and as if you read it, there's 3 stories that of the bringing of that pipe, and we know it's here and it's real. It's established or over at Green Grass. Every 4 years they usually bring it out and unwrapped it and rewrapped it again and put away, because that's the source of our lives, our understanding, our spirituality, and the guidance that comes from that is a source of our livelihood, as Lakota people believe. And even during the days from the time that pipe was brought, people, other tribes, other nations wanted to possess that pipe. So sometimes people journey to there and somehow try to steal it. And sometimes that keeper usually put a replica of that pipe there just in case, and they said they would hide it in a cave nearby, okay, just so it won't be stolen. And this is a physical attitude of the people at that time, to possess such a misunderstanding of powers that the pipe have. And because of that, other nation wanted to, have that power of that. I don't know what they're going to do with it. Maybe use it for something else, or whatever that pipe was intended to do. And so there's always danger of that, and the keepers will always have to be alert with that pipe in their possession, the San Arcs or the Itazi Cho people. And It had been here since 19th generation. Arval was the 19th generation keeper of that pipe. So it's been here a while, and it's here in a physical way so that people will know that it was brought. And of course we always wanted to, if we see it then we believe it, that kind of things. But I believe it's here, and so there were times when they were going to have brought it up, and I was usually invited, but I know the family, so. But I just know it's there, and the things that, the powers, the energy that it has, and that goes out to all, to individual or to the Tioshpai or to the nation, and I believe that. And so from that, I have my encouragement, I have my way of life as a Lakota people. And so it's there, and I'm sure you read the story and how Blackout produces the sacred pipe. I know before when we met I talked about the legend that we have, how the pipe, the pipe stone has come into this world, and how it been used by individual who go to the quarry at Pipestone and take it out of the ground and use it. Because of the stories, I'm sure every tribe have their own story of how the pipe was originated. And ours in the plains here would be the story of Stone Boy, Ian Hokshila, how he become a hero to all, to his nation and to his Tioshpai, and it spreads out throughout the whole world in an instrument that was presented in the form of the white buffalo calf maiden. And so now we went to keeping of the spirit, how during that time, as I mentioned, this is my own theory, but we were probably involved in human sacrifice, and death was common. It's there that, after a while people just, it's an everyday thing, sacrificing human. And so the death was not as important as it was a long time ago, the spilling of the blood. And so when the pipe was brought to the nation, it changes the whole concept of human sacrifice. And now they have to, that way of life has ended, and a new life will begin. In fact, I think it happened throughout the whole world. Changes have been created because during that time, the human people took over without any thought to the spiritual part of their being. And probably somebody come up with something that, this is how we do to appease the deities or the gods, as today word, the gods. And so they began to sacrifice individuals. Shawichayapi, Shaichia, painted them red, and then sacrificed them. When it comes to the women and children, I think that's when a new beginning should start. And the pipe was brought by the white buffalo calf women to stop that unnecessary sacrifice, because when a prime was brought, she addressed every individual, even the leaders, the men, the women, and the children. This is how you will live. This is how you will go in the future. And these things must stop, because it could have easily, Unchimaka could cleanse herself then, the fourth time, cleanse herself in a new way of life, or other than, what was done during that period of time. But she didn't compromise that we should give it another chance of our way of life through spirituality, emotional and physically, understanding that there is a creator that has created us through his blood, that all are relatives, the Mitakiyayas in concept. And so in order for that to be completed, the pipe was brought to bring everything together, all creation, universe, and to Unchimaka to be a final, pact that is made with our Creator in a spiritual realm, and how we get from physical to a spiritual world, that we must, our spirit is always needed to go back to the beginning when they were part of a spiritual under the ground of the Black Hills, and that's the spiritual part of our lives, because before, the sacrifices and the spirits of those were sacrificed were still here, here in this world. And so in order for the completion of the spiritual way of life, something have to be done. Something have to be done to bring every creation together. And so that's why the pipe was brought at that time, a moment in time before it gets out of hand, or cause Unchimaka to recreate. Usually she shook herself and things began to change, maybe earthquakes, volcanic actions, or things of catastrophe. Because was it last week we get a taste of that a little bit in the eastern seaboard, how the water could be a devastating effect in our way of life in this world, We're so understand our own way of life, and we put things before, to use that as a energy source, or wakan. We put something else and we call it wakan, energy, and then we forget about our spiritual life, or the natural, the elements, the directions. And that's why sometimes the nature intercedes into our complacency in this life, by coming in as a tornado, hurricane, whatever it is, to make us realize at that moment, how we cherish a lot of these things that material things, and people began to hoping that they would understand their spiritual way of life, So if you notice, a lot of houses have been damaged, and people are saying, it's a big loss, billions and billions of dollars, and that's what they see. That catastrophe, or that Sandy that came into the eastern seaboard, and still, they think about the money as part, how they're going to build, and we don't have the money. We don't. It's such that And that's waka. That's their sacred, the money part. How they're gonna, instead of thinking about they're lucky that, they're alive because something intercedes in that at that time. Maybe somebody's praying, or maybe somebody understands Machimaka and somehow was there to intercede a bigger catastrophe over there. Okay? And so it's beginning in that sense. Warnings have been given, even through nature, and that should bring every creation together to understand it. We should bring out our pipes and use it to bring all things together, whether if it's spiritual part of our lives, bring them together. Our emotion, or our physical being. And you notice there's a lot of sickness, that disease that is, especially one that we have, cancer. I think they've been trying to find a cure for almost 70 years. And it's still affecting our reservation and other sickness, because of that. We as people of this land, and yet we're separate. We do ceremonies in our own individual way, in our own area. When one did something, a ceremony, and when it finished, another one started another thing, and the concept of it is not a something that everyone should be involved and continue our prayer as one. Usually the prayers that Lakota people believe a long time ago, is like a vortex. If I'm still in the artist mood, and they said there's a kapemini in this area. Okay. I couldn't even. Nope. Anyway, I do the best I can. It's like this. And Lakota people believe their prayers, as Lakota would be here, and their prayers would go here. And when you hit the kapemini, it goes to all four corners of the world and into the universe. Okay? And so when the prayers are answered, it comes back as energy. Every universe, the four direction, all the winged people, everything that is created, return our prayers through energy or waka back to this person. And the powers or dark waka is such that one time an older man was watching the bomb that was dropped in Hiroshima, I believe, how the energy was such, and he thought our prayers, when it was returned to us, it would be like that. We have that much power when our prayers are answered, and then whatever we ask for is usually delivered by that power, the Wakanda sacred, as we call it today. And so Lakota people believe it's how their prayers is distributed throughout the whole world, universe, okay, and to the directions, and those Togashilas who were at each cardinal point will receive that and send it back as an energy. Because if you're healthy, then you have wealth, as Lakota people understand. If you're healthy, you can do just about anything, and with the help and aided of the all creation also is there to send back energy. And sometimes other creation would do that same, and we give them energy, some of ourselves, some of our energy to this creation that asks for something through prayers, or chekia, addressing a relative, or chekia. And so that's why Lakota people believe in it, our prayers, and especially with the pipe when we load it, Tachan Numpa, you must make that connection to bring that pipe as one. And through that, you send your prayers to the whole creation and to the universe. And the smoke from that pipe, I'm pretty sure if you read that book, is how Blackout is talking about that. That smoke goes to all direction and it carries your prayer. Okay. That's what we have in symbols in our Lakota way. We usually have every design, we usually have this kind in it, and sometimes we put extra in it to make it fancy. Okay. Sometimes we use it like this, but it still means the same of prayers in that area, okay? Like star quilts or whatever. And we make it fancy, but the important is that how our deliverance of our prayers and how it was answered through these powers. You probably find all this kind of designs in a parfilage of old, how the colors, the four colors that was given, the first colors that was given in your reading, I think you should be able to understand that. The colors is what? Blue, red, green, and yellow. Those are the primary colors that was given, and to each spirit. Because everything that is created, it has to come from emotion and our spiritual way, and how it will become physical, even birth. It's a concept, an idea of starting a family, and through emotional and into a physical being, how we come into existence here in this Uchimaka. And we're not born just to be here, taken up space, but we're given other supplemental things to use to be who we are as Lakota people, with understanding that we have a creation and how everything is created because of the emotions of our Creator. And those things that has come in through His blood, and we have that. We have a Creator who is a relative, and that's why we call it Tonkashila, birth, to owe and has the respect of all creation. So in a sense, we have a tremendous powers that we could use in our daily lives. But if we don't, it's just gonna die, and it's gonna be worthless. We still could use it, but it's not gonna affect anything. It's just emotions that we go through our daily lives. We all have tremendous skills in our life. And like I said, we have 16 spirits, and we usually use only 4 or 5 in our lives. Things that we think that's important to us, things that will get us attention to ourselves, or how it's limited. We limited our focus of life, the scope of life. We just do what we think, and today it's usually something that we benefit from that. We benefit our own individual way of life because of the pipe that was there. It's been set aside, put it on back burner, and then from that, we are individual, not a person that has 16 spirit that could make connection to all things, and yet we only use but one third of it, or 1/4 of that our spirituality that makes us exist. So it is something that it's probably been done in that maybe it's a way of life. We could only do this. A vision or our focus is we made it limited, that we never focus on our surroundings. And today we talk about a lot of things that just like that December 2012, I talk about it. It was a big issue, and all of a sudden it sort of quiet down, and last night it come up again. I was watching TV on that, and now they're trying to downplay it, nothing will happen. It's just something that get our curiosity up and going. And so the video, the audio, the visual is very powerful. People began to call in and answer things. But the thing about that, I was watching it, they forget about their spirituality. They forgot about the emotions. But the real thing that was really put in focus is, we spent so many millions of dollars on these things, on this program, or in this world, or the cars, everything. What would happen if this, on 2012, December, what's going to happen to all the things that we work so hard for? I know, just thinking, what about your spirituality? How are you going to empower your spirituality so that it will help your emotional, and you will find peace there. You all have to come together instead of focus on the materials that we'll never take with us when we go into the spirit world. It will be here. And they began to talk about how the sun will be a danger to us, as well as to Uchimaka, how the sun will do, and things that will happen, how the sun will, pour out some energy that will kill all electricity, whatever it is, then we'll be in darkness. And they worry about that.